Brother threw fake wedding to get gifts and money from family. But now his wife is pregnant and demands. The champagne flutes clinked, but the sound felt hollow, like the echo of a lie in a cavernous hall. Ethan stood at the altar, grinning like he'd just won the lottery, while his bride, Lila, played her part with a smile so brittle it could shatter. By the end of the night, he'd pocketed thousands in cash and a pile of gifts, all while his family wept tears of joy for a marriage that didn't exist. Ethan had always been the charming one, the golden boy who could talk his way out of anything. Growing up in a modest family of 5 in rural Ohio, he'd learned early how to bend the truth to his advantage. A borrowed car here, a forgotten loan there. His siblings, Clara and Marcus, had long grown used to his schemes. But this was a new low. At 28, Ethan had concocted his boldest plan, yet a fake wedding to fleece his family and friends for cash and gifts to fund his dream of opening a bar. He'd roped in Lila, a struggling actress he'd met at a dive bar, promising her a cut of the profits for playing the blushing bride. It was supposed to be a one-night performance, a con to end all cons. The venue was a rented barn, decked out with fairy lights and cheap flowers to sell the illusion. Ethan's family, none the wiser, poured in from across the state. His mother, Diane, sobbed through the vows, clutching a tissue as she whispered to Clara about how proud she was of her boy. Marcus, ever skeptical, raised an eyebrow but kept quiet, assuming Ethan's charm had finally landed him a wife. The guests showered the couple with envelopes stuffed with cash, toasters, and gift cards, all while Ethan and Lila danced under the string lights, their laughter masking the lie. By midnight, Ethan had stashed $12,000 in his car and a haul of appliances he planned to sell. Lila slipped away after the cake cutting, her $2,000 cut wired to her account. Clean, simple, done. Or so Ethan thought. 3 months later, a knock on his apartment door shattered his smug satisfaction. Lila stood there, her face pale, her hand resting on a barely visible bump under her sweater. "I'm pregnant," she said, her voice flat but her eyes blazing. "And it's yours." Ethan laughed, thinking it was another act. But the ultrasound photo she shoved into his hands was no prop. His knees buckled. The night of the wedding, after too many drinks and a reckless moment in the barn's back room, their performance had crossed a line neither had planned. Lila wasn't there to negotiate. She demanded Ethan take responsibility not just for the baby, but for the lie they'd sold. "Your family thinks we're married," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and fury. "They've been calling me, sending baby clothes, asking when we're visiting. What am I supposed to tell them?" Ethan's mind raced. His family had no idea the wedding was fake. Diane was already knitting booties, and Clara had started a group chat for wedding anniversary plans. The weight of his deception pressed down like a collapsing roof. Ethan tried to backtrack, offering Lila money to disappear, but she wasn't the same pliable actress from 3 months ago. Motherhood had shifted something in her. "I'm not raising this kid alone," she said, her voice steady now. "You either step up, or I tell your family everything." The threat hit Ethan like a punch. His family wasn't rich. Every dollar they'd given him came from scraped-together savings, from love they thought he deserved. If they found out, he'd lose more than their trust. He'd lose them entirely. Desperate, Ethan tried to salvage the lie. He invited Lila to move into his cramped apartment, spinning a story to his family that they were working through things after a rough patch. Lila played along, but her resentment simmered. She wasn't just a pawn anymore. She was a mother-to-be, grappling with a future she hadn't chosen. Ethan, meanwhile, was drowning in his own guilt. Every time his mother called to gush about the grandbaby, he felt the lie tighten around his throat. Clara, the sharpest of the siblings, started to notice cracks in the story. Why did Lila flinch when Ethan touched her? Why did Ethan dodge questions about the wedding photos one evening? Clara cornered him at a family dinner. "What's going on?" "Ethan," she asked, her voice low but piercing. "This doesn't add up." Ethan deflected with a laugh, but his charm was wearing thin. Lila, sitting across the table, caught his eye, her gaze a silent ultimatum: tell the truth, or I will. The breaking point came at a family barbecue, the air thick with summer heat and unspoken tension. Diane proudly showed off a baby quilt she'd made, her eyes shining with hope. Lila, now 6 months pregnant, couldn't take it anymore. It was all fake, she blurted, her voice cutting through the chatter. The backyard fell silent. The wedding, the vows, none of it was real. Ethan did it for the money. Diane's face crumpled, and Marcus swore under his breath. Clara just stared, her suspicion confirmed. Ethan tried to explain, his words tumbling out in a desperate bid to justify himself. I needed the money for the bar. I was going to pay everyone back, but the betrayal was too deep. Diane walked away without a word, her quilt clutched to her chest. Marcus grabbed his keys and left. Clara stayed long enough to say, "You're my brother, but I don't know you anymore." In the weeks that followed, Ethan was alone in a way he'd never been. Lila moved out, determined to raise the baby on her own terms, though she promised to let Ethan be involved if he could prove himself. The family group chat went silent. The gifts in cash, long spent, haunted him like ghosts. But something else lingered, a flicker of hope. Lila's courage in telling the truth, her refusal to let the lie define her, forced Ethan to look at himself. For the first time, he saw the cost of his schemes, not just to others, but to his own soul. He started small. He sold his car to repay his family, though most wouldn't take the money. He wrote letters, not expecting forgiveness, but needing to own his mistakes. To Lila, he offered more than money time, support, a promise to show up for their child. She didn't trust him, not yet, but she didn't shut the door. One evening, Ethan sat in his empty apartment, staring at a photo of the fake wedding. He didn't recognize the man in the tuxedo, grinning like he'd outsmarted the world. That man was gone. In his place was someone new, flawed, humbled, but trying. The road to redemption was long, and he wasn't sure he'd ever reach the end. But for his child, for his family, for himself, he had to start walking. What do you think? Was Ethan's lie unforgivable? Or does he deserve a chance to make things right? Share your thoughts in